Hey everybody, welcome to another lesson of learning Japanese. Today we're going to cover the introduction to Wasei-Eigo, or otherwise known as coined English loanwords. So if you've ever wondered while, say, watching anime or just listening to the Japanese language in general, and you hear a word that sounds pretty much exactly like an English word, and you're wondering why it just isn't translated to that exact English word in, say, the subtitles that you're reading, well, you might want to stay tuned and learn a thing about Wasei-Eigo, because that just might be the answer to your question. And if you've never wondered that, then you still might want to keep watching just to learn a few new things, if maybe no guarantees, but yeah. Okay, so what is Wasei-Eigo? Well, the literal translation of this word is something along the lines of Japanese-made English, and a definition that probably makes more sense than that is just English words that have been coined into the Japanese language. And what this means more contextually is that just basically Japanese speakers take English words that kind of sound cool, and then they add a kind of trendy definition to them that makes it completely different from the original meaning that it was in English. And Wasei-Eigo is often confused with two other kinds of similar phenomenon, so to speak. And the first one is what people call Engrish, which is kind of just the incorrect usage of the English language in general in various East Asian languages, including Japanese. And the other thing that it's confused with is gairaigo. And what gairaigo is just basically loan words from languages other than the Chinese language that make their way into the Japanese language, not specifically English. So since the topic for this video is Wasei-Eigo, we're going to be focusing on English loan words that have been coined specifically. Not so much other words imported from other languages such as Italian or Portuguese or something like that. Okay, so just to recap, since we've kind of gone off course a little bit, Wasei-Eigo, it's when the Japanese language takes English words, pronounces them virtually the same by means of the katakana system, but they give it a new definition basically. So now let's just give a couple examples to get a feel of how this process works. So for our first example of Wasei-Eigo, we have the word American dog. And so you're hearing me pronounce that basically with a kind of Japanese style of speaking, but you should be able to tell that what I'm saying is American dog. Probably hearing this term for the first time, and you're gonna go, oh, maybe that just means a dog that has the breed that is common in America, such as, I don't know, a golden retriever or something like that. Well, you're wrong, because American dog in Japanese is going to mean a corn dog. A corn dog that you eat, basically. So say someone who speaks English goes to Japan and some Japanese person asks them if they want to eat an American dog, and they'll be really confused as to what they mean because they don't know that they're talking about a regular corn dog. So that there is one example of a Wasei-Eigo word. Let's go through two more examples before we go back to dealing with some more contextual information. So for our second Wasei-Eigo example, we have the word snaku. And as you can probably tell, this derives from the English word snack, which is, I don't know, a small little food stuff that we'll eat between meals just to appease our slight hunger. And that's not what it's going to mean in Japanese at all. So in Japan, when you hear the word snaku, it's going to mean basically a hostess bar that guys can go to after work to have their drinks poured to them by women, and they can sing karaoke. For our third example for Wasei-Eigo, we have the word high tension. And this is going to be basically the English term high tension. And in English, we might kind of interpret that as meaning kind of stressed. A lot of tension in your life or in your body. You're feeling kind of stressed. In Japanese, high tension is going to instead mean something is brimming with energy, basically. And again, those are pretty dramatic differences in meaning. So it's definitely going to be a good thing to know that these words aren't what they usually mean in English. And so having gone over these first three examples, we can kind of see how Wasei-Eigo, although it's a pretty established part of the Japanese language at this point, we can kind of deem it as almost a negative influence, because consider the scenario where an English speaker is learning Japanese and he'll go to Japan and he'll start hearing these words and he'll know, oh, well, Japanese has the katakana system. They use loan words from other countries, so this is just a loan word from America. So it's gotta mean the same thing that we use it for, right? Actually, no. this American dog doesn't mean American dog, it means corn dog, and so that English speaker will be pretty confused and he'll go, no, I don't want to eat an American dog, or something along those lines. So we can see here that it can result in some pretty confusing scenarios. And at the same time, it's exhibiting this kind of cultural appropriation where Japanese speakers are taking something from another country and they're kind of just disregarding the whole meaning of it and assigning their own special meaning to it and claiming it as their own. So in the end, it is kind of a contentious part of the language, but it is nonetheless in full effect. As I said in the hook at the beginning of this video, I related this topic to anime, which means if Wasei-Eigo is going to appear in things like anime, then it's clearly in mass media and stuff like that. And with that being said, now let's just talk a little bit about how Wasei-Eigo words, new Wasei-Eigo words come up or are invented. So Wasei-Eigo kind of has an association with trendiness. For the most part, Wasei-Eigo words are much more informal than just standard Japanese, but at the same time, they can kind of have a poignant description. And it's exactly for this reason that the main thing behind the coining of new Wasei-Eigo words is actually the media itself. Basically, the process is the media is gonna try to attach a certain appeal to their advertisements and products. So what they're gonna do is they're gonna combine the English language with the Japanese language to give this kind of modern and cosmopolitan image to things. And to take it even kind of a step further, nowadays new Wasei-Eigo words are being coined just between friends in subgroups as kind of slang. And it's actually pretty similar to how onomatopoeic words, those ones that you often seen written in kana characters in manga and anime and stuff like that, are used between friends as kind of a more casual and friendly usage of words. And so yeah, I think that's about going to cover it for the context of Wasei-Eigo words. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go through a considerably lengthy list of Wasei-Eigo terms. And what we're going to do is we're going to state the English terms that it derives from. Then we're going to state the different definition that it has. And as we go along through each word, try to notice how some of them, most of them probably, are going to represent kind of the media as well as kind of subcultures between groups of people that represent casualness and friendliness and the like. Okay, our list of some pretty common Wasei-Eigo terms. First up, we have after service, and this is going to derive from basically the English term after service. It's not technically a term in English, it's just the pairing of two words in English. But yeah, so what this is gonna mean is actually customer service. Next up, we have orubaku, and this is going to derive from just the English all back, and what it's going to mean is swept back hair. Next up, we have baby car, and this is going to be baby car, and what it's going to mean is basically a stroller for a baby. Next up, we have changey reba, and this is going to derive from change lever, and this is going to be basically the gear stick or the gear shift in a car. Next up, we have kuremu, and this is going to derive from the English word claim, and what it's going to mean is a complaint. Next up, we have come on, and this is just going to derive from come on, and what it's going to mean is basically an invitation to join an event. Our next one is actually one of the most common ones I've come across, and this is just going to be faito. And this is going to derive from the English word fight, of course, but what it's actually going to mean is kind of just do your best or I'll do my best. Next up, we have free size, and this is going to be it's going to derive from free size, and what it's going to mean is one size fits all. Next up, we have the Wasei-Eigo majiku tape, and this is going to derive from magic tape, and what it's going to mean is just Velcro. Our next one is actually one of the other most common ones that I've personally come across, and that's going to be my pace, and this is going to derive from just my pace, and what it's going to mean is just doing things at one's own pace. Next up, we have pinchi, and this is going to derive from the word pinch, and what it's going to mean is just a predicament or a potentially dangerous situation. Here's another common one, salaryman, and this is going to derive from the word salaryman. Actually, I don't think that's a word, but they combine salary and man. So salaryman, and what it'll mean is just male office worker, because office worker is a really common job in Japan. Next up, we have sign, and this is just going to derive from the word sign. What it's actually going to mean is signature or autograph. Our next one is actually a word that we've probably used in a lot of our example sentences in various videos of ours, and that's just going to be the word super, and this is going to derive from the word super. What it's actually going to mean is supermarket. Next up is another pretty common one, talento, and this is going to derive from the word talent. What it's going to mean is just a TV personality. And for the last one that we're going to cover in this video is the Wasei-Eigo term Viking. And what this is going to derive from is the word Viking, and what it's going to mean, surprisingly, is all-you-can-eat buffet. And so yeah, that wraps up our intro list to Wasei-Eigo terms. We actually didn't read all of them, so if you want to check out some more, the complete list will be in the description. And so yeah, those are some useful Wasei-Eigo terms that you can remember, and hopefully they'll help you avoid an awkward situation if you go to Japan and have a conversation with them included. And with that, this has been an introduction to Wasei-Eigo, otherwise known as coined English loanwords. And stay tuned for the next lesson.